Joe Biden is addressing claims from Republicans that he was unaware of certain pardons that were signed with his Autopen.
The former president told the New York Times that at the end of his term, he verbally approved all the pardons and commutations that ended up with his signature. The New York Times writes, quote, "I made every decision," Biden said in a telephone interview Thursday, saying he had his staff use an Autopen to replicate his signature on the pardon orders because, quote, "we're talking about a lot of people." Some of Biden's pardons caused an uproar among many on the right. For instance, Biden preemptively pardoned members of his family, including James Biden. He also preemptively pardoned former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, Liz Cheney, and Dr. Anthony Fauci, Robby's favorite.
Ugh. Per emails reviewed by the Times, Biden's White House staff secretary Stephanie Feldman managed this Autopen. Now, before using it, she wanted written accounts of Biden's verbal confirmations, which Biden called blurbs, Team Biden called blurbs. Notably, the Times writes, the assistants who drafted the blurbs were not themselves in the room with Mr. Biden, according to the list of meeting participants. The emails imply that Mr. Siskel and Mr. Zients relayed what Mr. Biden had said to the assistants, who then documented it.
President Trump responded to the report yesterday. Let's watch.
The Autopen, I think, is maybe one of the biggest scandals that we've had in 50 to 100 years. This is a tremendous scandal. I guarantee you he knew nothing about what he was signing. I guarantee it.
So there's some... Oh, you're not happy about this.
This is political theater. Every
agree.
single president, Biden, Obama, Trump, they don't read every single clemency file. And this is just like another... Yeah, but this is still another example. Like, Trump has a pardon czar.
I think our elected officials,
he has an entire pardon
our elected
czar.
officials should read what they're signing.
Fine, I agree that they should, but I don't think that they read in, like, they just have, okay, somebody brings the case to them, okay, let's move this off the table, I agree. Break it down for you. That's why you have all these assistants. That's why you have a clemency czar, like President Trump does, our pardon czar, right? He has somebody to bring the whole file to the table, go over it. I'm sure he's not, like, combing through pages of their cases, trying to understand what it could be against them. Like, I don't think President Trump's doing that. I don't think Biden did that, but I think Biden did have knowledge of everyone that was presented to him, and I think that he reviewed it.
Oh, I do not have that confidence whatsoever.
Okay, I do. I don't think that he was completely inaccessible and non-human, right? Just because he got older, we addressed that already, doesn't mean that he's completely incoherent. I think the man's coherent. We saw him go on The View. He can have a conversation. He can say yes or no. Yes.
I think it's Grima Wormtongue and King Theoden, where Aomer finds out he was banished, and he goes, well, the king would never sign off on this, and Grima says, oh, but the king signed it yesterday, because Grima's like, got his hand with the pen. So I don't think the pen itself, and here's where I disagree with Trump and some on the right a little bit. I think they want to pretend as if the Autopen itself is the scandal, and thus means that the pardons are invalid, probably out of a desire to still go after some of these people. I share the desire still to pursue justice against Dr. Anthony Fauci in particular, the rest less so. But I don't agree that because the pen was used, these are not valid. I don't think that will hold up. That's not true. But the question of whether, so I don't think it matters legally whether Biden was aware or not. He signed it. Doesn't matter that it was done with an Autopen. It's done. That's unfortunate, but it's done. But it still just speaks to the reality of the fact that his presidency was managed by other people with him having some diminished knowledge of what was going on. It seems somewhat clear to me, I mean, it should be cleared up further, that he didn't know exactly who he was granting clemency to. I mean, they did. They granted clemency to, like, the judge, the Kids for Cash judge. And then we're later like, oh, we didn't necessarily know we had given clemency to that guy. That suggests to me that they didn't look very closely at each
Let's do a
thing.
hypocrisy check, right? Trump's pardon record. He pardoned Roger Stone.
But he knew he was
lying
pardoning
at Congress.
Roger Stone.
He pardoned Michael Flynn. He lied to the FBI.
Right, he did those things on purpose.
Okay, but that's why I can go down the list endlessly. He's not like, who cares who Biden decided to pardon? I think he did these things on purpose. I don't think that he is completely blindsided by these pardons. I think the same way that Trump's team brings him suggested
But I just gave you an
pardons,
example where he's someone he did not know that he had.
Okay, his team probably overviewed it, and he probably said, yes, this is what I want to do. I think that that's an agreement that everyone understands. People have people in their cabinet. Trump was just asked at a press conference last week about what's going on with international war, and he said, why don't you answer to Caitlin Collins? So he doesn't know everything, right? Somebody briefs him, and he has Pete Hegseth and people in certain positions to come to his desk and tell him what the plans are,
that
what the strategy is.
That was referring to some policy of the Defense Department, not
so
something that he himself
but Trump should know.
had signed off on.
He should know, right? He should know what's going on in his Defense Department. That's like saying Biden should should know.
Okay.
He should know who's
Biden should know what's going on. Trump should know what's going on in his Defense Department. I agree. And Biden should also know what he is signing.
Right.
And I have no confidence
And
that
I
he
think
did.
that
None.
more than,
Zero. Does
more
anyone?
Than, well, I think people do. And I think that more than anything, this is more about the political theater that it creates to continue to bring Biden's name up for President Trump, somebody who is a historical president at this point. He wants to blame everything on Biden. And the more he keeps Biden's name in the news attached to negativity, the more he looks good. People remember, oh, what a bad time it was. What a bad debate that was. And people have all these memories. What a bad, equally bad economy. It's not as bad as Biden. And it's like, okay, but it's still not good.
People remember the
continue to
shock
campaign
of
on that.
discovering that the sitting president was not capable mentally of doing that job. That was a shocking moment for myself and millions
I
of
think
my
he was
fellow
capable
Americans.
throughout the term that he did it, and then he didn't run again.
You think he
So
stopped
here we
being
are.
capable like the day before the debate?
No, I
That's
think that
lucky
he just
timing.
got older. He got older. You know how like a grandparent drives a car,
Yeah.
and they just still are pretty good, but it's like grandma,
Yeah.
grandpa, get off the road
Yeah.
now. You got to let.
And we should not put them in charge of the country in the
Fine,
most
but we weren't.
stressful and high
I
demand
think
job there
everyone
is.
agreed by that debate. Oh, let's not do
Yeah.
this, and that's why it was such chaos.
Yeah. Well, it took Biden a couple more weeks to agree.
Fine, but I think everyone before that agreed. And I was also a very verbal and vocal critic. So I don't want to pretend like there's not several criticisms of Biden and his entire team, for sure.
Okay, but he didn't
100%.
resign then. He continued to make, he just didn't run for re-election. He continued to make decisions, including all of these pardons that came out in the last days and hours of his presidency. And we saw what his mental state was like, 6 months before that. That's where the questions come
when
from.
you're dealing
He
with
should have
somebody
resigned as
who-
well. I mean, he just should have.
When
But
you're dealing with somebody who lives their life in pettiness, like unfortunately President Trump does, then you need to make sure that you protect people like Anthony Fauci, who simply was just trying to do his job, from being prosecuted by our sitting president. And so Biden made some decisions, I think, that were firm by everybody on his team that's been advising him for 4 years to pardon people that he thought that Trump would make into political enemies to prove a point, because he's mad about all the things, the impeachments. He's mad about all the
Just
charges.
doing your job
and
is
so I think
not
he
a
just is trying to
defense
retaliate.
against appalling moral judgment that possibly, arguably, theoretically was the
No,
cause of the
theoretically is
pandemic.
not the actual fact. So until we have actual facts and proofs, and you show me that somebody says Fauci needs to go to jail for this, that's not just the argument I'm running off of, that Fauci needs to go to jail because Trump doesn't like him.
He signed,
That's a huge
he signed
disconnect.
speaking of documents crossing people's desks and then later being like, I'm not quite sure. He, and in sworn affidavit, in a testimony behind closed doors, Dr. Fauci said that there were exceptions to Barack Obama's halting of gain-of-function research. Barack Obama ordered scientists to stop funding gain-of-function research, the U.S. government, but it could still be done. There was a little asterisk for, well, I guess national security could be done. And Dr. Fauci admits that he used that, or someone under him did, to continue greenlighting the exact research that was done in Wuhan, China, under unsafe conditions, that our Energy Department, FBI, and CIA now thinks was the likelier cause of COVID, which killed millions of people. So that's my argument again for Fauci bearing moral responsibility.
The little asterisk, I understand. But
Yeah.
the fact that we're here and people have made it through the pandemic and we try to figure out how to handle an unprecedented, very dramatic situation, and I think the country did their best, even though we all look back and reflectively say it could have been handled better. It's still not a time to relitigate the past, whether it's Biden or Dr. Fauci. Let's move on and talk about all the promises that President Trump made for America and complete them.
With the research still being funded, I think it still needs to be litigated. It needs to be litigated. I don't know. I will not finish litigating that.
A familiar face jumping back into the New York City mayor's race after his loss in the Democratic primary last month. What Andrew Cuomo is proposing to consolidate support against Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani. That's after the break.